I want to start off by asking about your sobriety. You have been sober for 9 years. So, can you tell us about that journey?
So I think what led me to choosing to eliminate substance use from my life was honestly, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like a deep intuition that was what was kind of creating a barrier for me in my life to be myself. Um, I think sometimes we can think that the use of things that kind of loosen us up present a version of ourselves that we can't always present. But then I was finding out that it was causing me a great deal of anxiety after drinking, and just it was like a little um, hamster wheel, a little bit of just drinking wine to hang out, to have fun, but then regretting everything that I would say and then feeling terrible. And just, I had this little voice inside that kept saying, what if it's the alcohol? Like, what if that's what this is? And I don't know. I was just real sad. I was having a hard time. It was kind of a quarter life crisis time anyway. I was 26 when I first stopped drinking, which
So,
sounds like
when
since
did you start? When did it become like pick up and become a problem?
Oh, that's a really good question. I didn't really drink alcohol in my early youth. I did, I think the first time that I tried alcohol, I was a child because it was around and I was like at a sleepover and somebody, I mean, we're talking very young. And um, then when I was in high school, I actually started using cannabis before alcohol, but way too, I was really young. It was my first year of high school. And that was kind of a social thing. I think like connecting with my peers in a way, or was something that people were doing. And I mean, I was curious about it. And it was actually something that gave me a great deal of anxiety also, but I
Okay.
I don't know why I continued to use it. I've now since learned, how addictive these things can be. But probably yeah, in high school and then when I went to college, I didn't really drink a lot. I did some, but it was always like just 0 to 90, like just a mess. I didn't
Okay.
really know how to moderate, and then I just would do embarrassing things, and I think that's probably the story of most youth drinking. But when I look back on it, I can tell as an adult who's processed some things that I had a lot of big feelings and life experiences that I didn't really know what to do with.
Hmm.
And um, I think drinking alcohol and using drugs became a way to, I don't know, I guess I was self medicating. So really, it started very, very young, and it's unfortunate. I have to grieve now the loss of the time in my life of when, a lot of kids, when they're 13 to 19, it's kind of a carefree time in their life where they're a child and they are
Hmm.
just out exploring. And I think I had a lot of big experiences in those times that um, I can't get that time back. And it's kind of devastating. And I realize now, uh, all the things that happened in that time, how much they, have affected me developmentally even to this day. So, anyway, um, by the grace of whatever that intuition that I had, and also having the unfortunate and fortunate experience of witnessing firsthand what alcohol and drugs can do in people's lives, like as a child or, just from elders, people that I would see, and I just started to notice that was not a road that I was wanting to go down for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went and saw a counselor who suggested trying, a 30-day don't use anything. And I did it. I did it that
Impressive.
first time. That was 15 years ago. And then I thought that I would try moderating
Mm-hmm.
about, I guess, about 6 years into that whole journey, or I guess, yeah, 5, 6 years. And so I tried alcohol here and there, and that just didn't work for me. Again, I just found myself um, just kind of craving it a little bit too much and staying up a little late watching TV, drinking for no apparent reason, feeling terrible the next day, and hating myself.
Mm-hmm.
So backed off of that. And it's kind of just like a line that I won't cross anymore. That I realized sometimes I think if you have longer term sobriety, your brain can start to trick yourself to think like, oh, well, I've done all this work and I've healed myself, and I don't need to do this anymore. But I think I'm, I'm, I know that that's not a life that I want, and that's where I'm headed.
Yeah. What about just if you were maybe using that as a way to kind of counteract some feelings that you were already feeling then at that time, did just the stopping of alcohol help those feelings, or have you gone through a journey to also like start to heal from that as well?
Yeah, great question. I, using substances to not feel your feelings and as a crutch to kind of cope throughout the day, um, or weeks, or whichever, getting to that place of like, I've got to, I'd get through a work day and be like, you know, kind of like working to get to the place to drink the wine to feel whatever that feeling is, to then settle into things. But for sure, in the beginning times of not drinking and using alcohol, the struggle of coping with feelings, that's something that I think I've noticed as a common thread. I have attended Alcoholics Anonymous, and when I pan away and I listen to the speakers in the room, it does seem like one of the common threads for people who are on a recovery journey is coping with emotions. And
Mhm.
for sure, it gets to be where, it's not comfortable to be sober. It's just not.
Mhm.
It's not a fix. It's, for me and for a lot of people, I think, I don't think I'm like unique or special in this. Not drinking alcohol and using drugs isn't the thing that makes me feel better. It's a thing that doesn't make me feel worse. So
Okay.
it's kind of a risk versus reward type of thing. For me, it feels more risky to choose, to try to alleviate whatever stress I have, or have a good time and blow off steam with using alcohol. That's a higher risk picture for me than it is to just like not.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, so learning to cope with your uncomfortable feelings in a new way, and over time, when you've eliminated substance use, you can start to feel like, um, what's wrong with me, and I'm no fun, and this, that, and the other. And then remember, it's good to have people in your life who can remind you, oh, Nicolette, you have been doing your life completely raw. your skin, you're just on raw mode. There's no slipping away into a liminal space of imbibing or using things. It's the liminal spaces I find to like recover are breathing and yoga and baths and books. And I still find escapes from my feelings. They just don't end up messing with me chemically the way that alcohol does. So I don't know. I hope that answered the question. I think
it did.
Yeah.
I know when I started therapy this past year, I would often feel like I'm not getting it. I am too broken to understand even these concepts that she was trying to teach. And she was so gentle, but she was like, it's like if I was trying to teach you Mandarin. She was like, it's that big and you would just have to keep learning and studying it. You're not just going to be able to speak Mandarin.
Yeah.
It was just a good way to look at it. Like, yeah, it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. And
no, I think the acute phase of sobriety, there can be like, oh, I feel great. I'm not hungover. I don't have to worry about if a police officer's behind me. I can drive at all out, just stuff. Those things, that stuff is like, wow, this is amazing. This is a life upgrade. But then when you get into the deeper, like dealing with your emotions, and the emotional sobriety term is something that is just going to be a lifelong. I feel like, yeah, you have to be open to growing and open to changing and adapting in lots of areas of life. There's a term called being a dry drunk, where you still have alcoholic tendencies or addict tendencies, and that's when you're not doing that deeper work of like taking an inventory and making amends where you need to, and that goes down to like the small things in life, just little daily practices of, okay, and not in a way of beating yourself up, but just like at the end of the day, did you show up in the ways that you wanted to, in the ways that you didn't show up in the ways that you wanted to? How can you try again tomorrow and be nice to yourself and the people around you while you're doing that? And just try to be on a learning journey and staying open and receptive to how can we learn? How are we here to, the open-mindedness. Love that concept. It's not an easy thing to maintain, I don't think. Right? We can think we're so open-minded.
Yeah.
And then we just realize, oh, well, I'm open-minded about the things I want to be open-minded about aren't time. Anyway.
So tell me about some of the ways that you've learned to incorporate self-care just into your everyday life that has even just helped through this process as well.
Oh yeah, little things, like little anchors throughout my day that I can kind of depend on to take a breath. I think I heard something years ago of, the breath in, breath out, like your our days kind of can be incremental in their intensity. So I think carving out little spaces throughout each day where I'm like, have a moment to collect myself, and that usually centers around a warm drink like some tea, or I have a morning routine that I try to stick to where I get up and do some. This is only in the last few years, and it's been super helpful to me. I have a morning and a nighttime routine of taking care of myself, and they're really minimal. It's not like a long process. I think it started off where you hear about people's routines and you're like, wow, they really got it together. And, journaling practices and stuff like that. I hope I aspire one day to get to that place. Mine's very basic, where I use a warm washcloth to sit with on my face and brush my teeth and make my bed and make a cup of tea, and then, just kind of reset for the day. And then throughout the day, I have little times where I reset and just sort of have a moment. And that I think that is probably the most helpful thing to me, is to maintain these little moments. They're like 5 minutes of, hey, take a minute. And often it's me going and standing back in my bathroom and like spraying my face with a fit spade and just being like, okay, take a second. Does that make sense?
I think it's genius, actually.
Yeah.
Like some of the times, the ways that people talk about incorporating self-care feels so unattainable as just with everything that we have on our plates. Like it's
a
just,
person being alive and
yeah,
distractions one after the other. And then
yeah.
like canning away too, like, so there's the daily little anchors to set. And then throughout the week, I have these certain days that I go to these certain classes for yoga practice, and they sort of create, even in my mind, like I know that I can count on that thing. And it's taken a long time to get there. I think when my kids were babies, it felt like impossible to leave them for an hour, or
Mm-hmm.
just to plan my day around 1 hour. It felt like, it's kind of like a 3 hour buffer around. It's not just an hour you go to a
Right.
class, it's the time getting there, it's prepping to go there, and then it's coming home and undoing whatever's been done while you're away and dropping back in and all of that. But I think having those things of just like, I think there are really like 2 classes a week that are kind of a must for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I found this specific thing that I like and it's helpful. And so then that's 2 hours a week that I'm committing with a little buffer space around it to, like, so that when that's not that much time to
Mm-hmm.
go take that space, and then I try to make the most out of that space. And then pan further back, what in the month, what's something you can do that is going to serve you, like, I don't know. I think having those little tiny practices of the couple times a week of going to a community space to practice yoga or whatever it is someone likes to do, can at first seem kind of unattainable, and then over time it just builds when you find yourself doing it. And anyway, then I try to add in what else can happen. I'm not very good at, like, I'm going to do this every week about hanging out with friends. That's overwhelming as a
It
person,
is.
where it's like,
Yes.
this is what we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Like a book club. Sorry. That's maybe one day,
It's my dream,
but
but
yeah. It's like,
haven't
I'll
made it
read all
happen
kinds
yet.
of books, but if you tell me to read a book, I'll be like, sorry, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'd be better at it now, but
No. We're the same age, 41. That can often lead to a lot of different just changes bodily, mentally, physically. What are you noticing? What are you feeling?
man, I'm noticing some stuff. It's
Me
happening.
too, girl. Me too.
Chelsea, it's happening. Like, my oldest child is going through a hormonal shift just as I am. And I'm like, so cute. We're getting mustaches together. Yeah, so there's some hair changes.
Hmm.
There's hairs places that I wasn't hoping for. And then there's less hair places that I want there to be hair.
I check my ponytail all the time. I swear it's getting
Girl,
thinner every
I'm
day.
checking that ponytail. I loved your reel about that. It was so funny. So I was like, or maybe it was Instagram story. I'm like, I do that.
Me too.
Yeah, so hair. I never know when I'm gonna get my period. Really cool feature.
That's exciting.
It's
Keeps you on your toes.
just keeping it fresh. Um, yeah, I
Are
would
they
say,
changing in like heaviness or lightness or duration?
oh yeah, for a while there, um, excuse me, I'm gonna have to clear my throat. um, um, when I weaned my last child, uh, I had a remarkable hormone shift. It was dramatic. And it
Ooh.
really started at the end stage of breastfeeding my last child because I was 37
Mhm.
when, no, I'm sorry, I was 38 when I
Oh.
weaned my last child. So my body went through it. And it was either I was bleeding nonstop, a ton, or I was just not having a period for a month and a half. And it was like, and I was really confused. I went to several different doctors. I had all kinds of tests. And then I did one of those it's called Modern Fertility. Have you heard of this?
I haven't heard of that one in particular.
You buy a kit and you go to a lab. They take your blood on day 3 of your cycle, so you kind of can do it on your own pace. And then they give you a report of your hormone levels.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's kind of like a user friendly at home, and people use it for predicting their fertility to like store their eggs
Okay.
if they want to do that type of thing, or just if they're planning to get pregnant or whatever. And at that time, I was just curious about my fertility because I was having so many issues. Anyway, my report came back saying that you better look out for some early menopause because I low egg reserve. And
Interesting.
yeah, so that was 4 years ago, and 3 or 4 years ago. And since then, yeah, I went through a lot of like heavy periods and weight gain, a lot of like water weight, a lot of fluctuations around my cycle, like, you know, gaining 10 pounds suddenly and just wild.
Hmm.
And still, and like having ovulation that was so intense that it was um, kind of almost like having 2 periods a month. the the symptoms of the ovulation were so intense that it was like laying me out. Pain, cramping, moodiness, just so it was like having 2 periods a month. I think my body was just working so hard to ovulate. So I've kind of gotten past a lot of that. I think some things leveled out. I changed my diet a little bit.
Tell
And
me about your diet changes. What did you do and what have you noticed?
well, I just mostly look for like anti-inflammatory foods, and I try to maintain like do things to promote anti-inflammatory, um, which anyone can kind of look those things up. I'm not an expert on any of these things, obviously, but then probably the biggest game changer was learning about a diet for IBS, low FODMAP eating. That has been such a huge change for me because a lot of my hormone shifts throughout my cycle would cause such uncomfortable digestive issues
Mhm.
that, and I want to say that I also saw doctors and got the probes and stuff. Although I haven't had a colonoscopy, which is you're really supposed to get, so I'm gonna need to go.
Oh, brave. I'll
Well,
let
you're
you
supposed to
lead.
start getting them at 40, I think,
I've
or
heard that.
45. It's just good to see if you got anything going on in there. I don't think I do. I don't have any other, and you kind of want to like balance it out. Do you need that much of an intervention of testing if you don't have serious symptoms, if it's
Mm.
discomfort, and if you do other things that then change it, you kind of learn what works for you. But
Mhm.
anyway, so those are the things I've noticed. Digestive issues. I'll notice I can tell by the look of my face how my hormones are going. That's a
Tell
real
me about that.
sad time. Right before I'm about to menstruate, I'll just kind of look very, my face just looks, I don't know how else to say it, but sad. Um,
Okay.
where you look in the mirror, that thing where you're like, what is this?
Yes.
Is this it forever now? But
Hmm.
it's interesting to see what happens with one's face as the cycle throughout the little menstrual cycle.
I feel like I
And
want to start paying attention to that now. That's interesting.
It is, because then you're like, oh, I need some water, and also it looks like I'm about to start my period. Usually I can tell, like, right here, just everything seems to kind of go like this. But
The whole
anyway,
head just
everything
melts a
just kind
little.
of droops a little,
Hmm.
and then I notice, like, kind of gets a little. So that's just, I feel like that's a nice. Sometimes it starts to make me think, oh my goodness, is this going to be what it's like when this is all, when we're through the when we've gone through the portal
Hmm.
of the major shift into, maturity.
Yeah, it's going to be
But
an adjustment for sure.
mhm, yeah,
But I can definitely already feel it. Same when you just look in the mirror, it can take you by surprise sometimes.
it really can.
Hmm.
And it's humbling and funny. It's, it's
There is
neat.
a lot of humor in it.
It can be really funny. It can be.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel really lucky that um, when I was a young girl, I wasn't really. Excuse me. I wasn't really. I hope you can edit that out, don't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got it.
thanks. I wasn't praised a lot for my looks growing
Okay.
up. Um, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah,
Um, it
I had
wasn't,
the very opposite thing, and it was difficult.
yeah, and I believe you. I think
Hmm.
that I had an experience, and this is going to sound bad, but I think it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I think it's also hilarious. So here it is, and do with this what you will. We can take it out or not. We had a girl who lived down the street from us when I was in junior high. She was like a year younger than me, and she was just beautiful. She was in pageants and she won them. Okay.
Okay.
And her name was Ashley, and I won't say her last name because. And my dad was always like, she's the most beautiful little girl. And oh my goodness. And I was just like, Dad, do you think I'm as pretty as Ashley? And he said, no, Nick, but you've got a great personality. And in your life, I think it's just going to be good for you to not count on your looks to get to where you need to go, because humor and intelligence is going to last much longer. And I
I
was
could
like,
not agree more, but I do love that story.
got it. Isn't that great?
It's so good.
That's funny. Yeah, I love it. And I told him about it. He's like, I said that to you? And he was like, you're, and I was like, yeah, and I think it's probably one of the best things that could have happened.
That's
I was just
great.
a late bloomer too, and I didn't know how to, I was not interested in any of the regular. So, I mean, I think when our first hormone shift into becoming a menstruator
Hmm.
might predict how I don't know. I was horrified. Just like, what? I don't want my period. I didn't want boobs. I didn't want any of this. So some of it coming through the other side, because the whole being a young woman situation, I remember I didn't like a lot of things about when I became a young 20s, did not enjoy attention for my looks. Oof, it was really difficult. And
Okay.
always kind of wanted to be taken a little more seriously than I was taken. So I'm
Hmm.
really enjoying, so the positive sides of getting to this place in life. I really enjoy feeling like younger people feel like I have something to say. I don't know why. Not like I want
I
to tell them
love
how
that.
to live their lives, but you know what I mean?
I do. I
Mhm.
don't really feel that. I was just talking with a friend recently, and she was like, I'm working with all of these young kids, and I thought they would be so excited to like be with me and that I would have something to offer them. And she was like, they do not care. They don't
Oh, they
care what
don't.
I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
And they think I have nothing to offer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe just as like a mom of, I have 3 teens now. So I do feel more the opposite where no one cares what I think or say.
Yeah. And it's, I think like more like, what's an example of this? Like I'll be surprised sometimes in, um, I don't know. It's just a good feeling to feel like a grown up is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say. Like that you get to the point where maybe you're not as infantilized as much
Mhm.
by people or even just I feel like sometimes I'm heard a little bit more by other grown-ups. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
Yeah.
in the club of the grown-up thing. With the kids though, it's the learning to not speak. I feel like with the teens, you're just like,
Yeah.
hold, don't say anything. What are they trying to tell me? I'm trying to remember that too. Like they don't
Oh,
really want to
yeah.
hear what I have to say, but I do
Yeah.
enjoy it if it is, like
Yes.
even this.
Yes.
Like, oh, you care?
I was about to say, I care so much and I want to hear what you say all the
Yeah.
time. So, let's change gears a little bit because you are a big reader. Last time I talked to you, you had read 41 books this year. Is that
I
right?
think I'm on 43 now.
Oh, wow. So you're doing it. You are doing it. Give me your top 3 or 4 books that you've read this year, or just that you think people should read.
Okay. I want to preface this with that I listen to a lot of these books on
Okay.
audiobooks because I think I mean, I know people actually read 40 something books by August, um, like paper books, but um, that seems crazy to me. That's a lot of books. Um, anyway, so I listen to a lot of the books while I'm like doing chores and ignoring my family. But we all need to do it. That circles back to the
Absolutely.
self-care aspect of things.
Hmm.
Um, so some of the best books that I've read this year, fiction, I would say this book that's I think everybody's reading it this summer. I don't know if you said you've read it, called All Fours by Miranda July.
I hadn't read it.
It is so great, and it's got a lot of the themes of being not young and exploring, yeah, long-term relationships, marriage, parenthood, reconciling, um, in this book particularly, like some birth trauma that the character explores, and also, you know, the 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 sensual aspects of being a person. Um, yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of absurdity in the book that is just so refreshing and beautiful and chaotic, and um, I thought it was just so good. It might not be suited for readers who are not into um, passion scenes.
Okay.
Sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sexy and it's weird.
Okay.
It's like it's not your typical passion scene situations, but to me it was just like, thank you, Miranda July. I'm gonna re-say that.
Okay.
Thank you, Miranda July, for this incredible bit of writing. And there's even like stuff about hormones in it. It's
It's next on my list. I'm going to read it.
she did us all a big solid by taking her precious time to write that book. And
Mm.
man, so that's fiction. And then nonfiction, you know, the un or no, it's called I'm just gonna have to do a good throat clearing.
Get it.
Sorry for whoever. Or do you edit these or?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry that you have to listen to that later.
It's all good. It's a
I
learning
swear it's
curve.
the air quality.
Mhm.
So sorry. Anxious Generation by Dr. I'm going to look it up,
Yeah.
what the name is of
I
the
don't know.
doctor. How are we on the time?
We're doing good. We're at 36 minutes, but there's probably like 2 of those that'll be taken out.
Okay, it's called The Anxious Generation. We really have had really poor air quality up here, and it's astounding.
What's that from?
I think it's just we have so many people flying their airplanes because they are so rich that they just have all
Rich.
these planes. And then just like we've had a massive population increase in Northwest Arkansas. You can see the
Yeah.
smog when flying out of here and
That's
just at
crazy.
nighttime. And I grew up in, Southern California, and I know what smog looks like, and we got it. Anyway, okay, so the other book is The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness.
I have heard about this book, and it was also on my reading list.
It seems like it would be great to have it be required reading for especially schools and anyone who's going to be caring for and influencing a lot of young people. And then I found the information to be wildly helpful for myself too, reconciling being kind of, we are some of the first people who were in our younger years, introduced to smartphones, and then becoming parents with smartphones and social media and all the distractions that just sort of, came about in a way that, it can be kind of hard to reconcile how time has been spent on these devices in front of our children and then trying to teach them to not be on them. And anyway, really wonderful book, and I loved it. I thought it was so helpful. There's a lot of online resources they have, that you can go to the website and even print out things to share with kids about, internet safety and basically like the research about what social media is doing specifically to female children. Yeah. So great, wonderful read. I'll probably keep revisiting that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another book that I read, called Zen Parenting by, I'm so sorry, Kathy Kesmini. Sorry, I don't have these just written down, but then Kathy Cassini Adams. And this book was published this year also in February, and it was so beautiful. So it's called Zen Parenting, and it is about being a parent, but it's mostly about being a person. And I feel like we're all kind of on a reparenting journey with ourselves. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people, if you are in a place of, hey, I've been trying to kind of break some cycles. Hey, I've been just parenting from a place where maybe you're not the most confident about the choices that you're making, or because you don't feel comfortable with how you were raised. I feel like this book can be one that is supportive for our own inner healing journeys. And just it was one of the most supportive bits I've ever read. And then it came along with a reading list, and I've read some of the books on the list. One of them was called Gifts from the Sea, by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And that book, I just listened to that in a day and then bought copies. And it's just a short, quick little read. It was written in the 60s, but it was just so beautiful. But anyway, Zen parenting, I think, is for parents. It's for anybody who's alive, who I have noticed recently in reading some parenting books. I was a little bit like apprehensive about reading them when my kids were little because oftentimes I felt that they made me feel bad.
Me too. I really avoided them, honestly, because yeah, I didn't feel supported. I felt just like I had more on my plate
Yes.
that I couldn't achieve
Yes.
or couldn't do well or perfect or
Yes. And you have
just too
multiple
tired.
children, and it sometimes
Hmm.
seems that they're geared towards one child at a time.
Yes.
And you're like,
Yeah.
or the first child, and you're like, well, what do I do when I've had subsequent kids? And
Hmm.
what if one of them, anyway,
Yeah.
um, this book's not like that. It's
Okay.
very supportive. Um, and I really appreciated that about it. I think Anxious Generation was also very supportive and didn't, and repeatedly is like, don't use this against yourself. Don't use
Okay.
this isn't a weapon to beat yourself up. I don't think
Mm.
we shouldn't have to be told that. But anyway, anyone, what I was saying about reading parenting books presently and just getting, having some distance from the early years of parenting, I think has helped me. All of that I read recently. There was another one called The Teenage Brain that was written a few years ago. It was actually pre-pandemic, but it was a lot of really interesting neuroscience about the developing brain. Um, that has helped. All of these books have been helping me to think about my childhood and reframe some things, understand places where my parents didn't have access to this information, or
Hmm.
they weren't perfect parents. No one's are, by the way. But or just maybe these things that I didn't have happen for me in my youth, how that's affected me today, and how that might impart on my children if I don't, deal with those things. And you know what I'm saying?
I
So, like,
do. Yeah.
reading parenting books for your inner child. Is that
Yeah.
a hack? I don't know.
It's a
Is it?
great hack. I
I
love
love
it.
this
Great
hack.
advice.
Yeah. Not to make it about yourself all the time, but we are our parents' children. And there have been a lot of studies, when parents do the work and take care of themselves, everyone benefits.
Yes. Yeah, I could not agree more. Last thing, Nico, do you have any goals for your future self? Things you want to achieve besides potentially being able to have the time or energy to go to a book club?
Well, yeah, book club is in there. Book
It's
club is in
there.
there.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest goals is kind of cheesy, but it's, getting a good hold on, um, my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Just really taking care of myself and pacing myself, uh, trying to approach these years of life with the importance that they have. So I think a lot of my current goals in life are, take small bites and try to be where I am. That's probably like the major thing. 'Cause, 10 years happens pretty fast. And
So
then
fast.
what? There's
Mm-hmm.
and then what? And then what? And it goes both ways because every single day making choices towards like these goals, you know, they add up. And you also cannot get the time back with your family and with yourself. So yeah, I'm trying to maybe be anti achievement orientated and more like how to be, how to be a supportive person to my family and myself, and then continue to study and learn and work towards maintaining open-mindedness. And I don't know where that's going to take me, Chelsea, but I hope that I really want to find some meaningful work, but I don't want to try to juggle all of that while in these really, really formative years of my children. And I know that that's kind of I think that's maybe what's that? The culture of like achieving, and I don't know. It's a tough one. What are I always said I just want to be happy, but I know you can't be happy all the time. And but I do think some things that will make me happy are just continuing to educate myself and maybe pursuing higher education as my kids get older. So
Great. How can our listeners connect with you? How can they find you? How can they follow your journey?
well, I regularly post on my Instagram, which is called Ozark Mama Deer, like the animal. And it's, just a place where I share about my life and my outfits, books I'm reading, stuff I like to eat. It's about being a woman, a lady, a person, a human. You don't have to be a woman to be there. I would
It's honestly
actually.
genius. It's one of my favorite spaces on Instagram.
Oh my gosh,
So
thank you so
everyone needs to
much.
go follow.
Thank you so much. And I want to backtrack and say it's not just about being a woman, even though I very much like being a woman. Just human. It's human stuff.
Yes. Yes.
I've been told that I bring a lot of calm to the post. So I think that sometimes we sort of put out into the world what we want to feel versus what's we're always feeling, and sometimes it matches what we're feeling, but I think sometimes it's a place to share just noticing. And I love that line from the Mary Oliver poem. I don't know how to pray, but I do know how to pay attention. And I think paying
It's
attention
beautiful.
and capturing calm and beauty and just a pause and a breath in and a breath out is a prayer. I don't know.
Beautiful. Nico, thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you,
genuinely loved it.
Chelsea.
Thanks for sharing so openly and honestly and just your journey. It was really special.
Thanks for creating this space. And I'm excited to see what comes.
Bye.
Bye.